Brett, what up? How are you guys doing? Can you guys hear me all right? Got a lot of people jumping on right now. I'm excited. Brett, you're looking good, bro. Did we get that deal closed up? Yeah, what up? What up, kid?
We got it done.
How you doing, man? Brett, get in the chat. Did we close our deal?
Yes.
We
got it. It's done. It's closed. Funding and recording, actually, I think they were trying to get it done by 3:30, but didn't. So supposedly funding this morning.
Sweet. Love it. How you doing, Adrian? Doing all right? Looking good?
Yeah.
I can't see everybody.
Loving my shirt.
What up, girl? New shirts are out. Yeah, we shipped out about, I think, 50 of them the other day. What do you think of the color?
I like it.
When I first saw it, I was like, oh, it's too pink. But then everybody was wearing them down in Mexico, and I was really, really liking them. They look great. You look great, girl.
Thanks.
Sweet. Guys, I'm excited. I'm excited for today and what's going on. What's up, Heston? It's been a little bit, bro. It's good to see you.
What's up, Mike? How's it going, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. All right, lots of stuff that I've been thinking about and considering, and I just wanted to kind of today, which is a little bit different because I decided to open up kind of the training to everybody, and really it was kind of partly based on what Matt Strong's been doing. And I want to, by the way, if you guys aren't friends with Matt Strong, I think you need to be. He's a local real estate investor. He's got phenomenal connections, and he's going to do a couple of trainings. And I think he's provided some really great perspective and content as to kind of what's going on concerning recent events. And I wanted to kind of put this together. And you guys know we've been in Mexico the last, several days, and we're kind of out of the loop a little bit. And, once we got back engaged, people were asking me when we were down there, how is this going to affect things? And I don't know that I was in a space where I could make the phone calls, do the research, and understand exactly what's going to happen and what the effects are. So I kind of wanted to just take a minute today and talk a little bit about that and hopefully provide just my perspective and thoughts as I've been back for the last couple of days and I've been on the phone with people that are in my circle. So that's kind of the goal. For today, we're going to talk about reducing risk. I want to talk about the metrics that truly matter in this business. And I also want to talk about who we should be listening to and who we shouldn't be listening to, because I feel like there's a lot of voices out there that may not be quite giving us the data or the information that we need. So that's where my head's at. I was looking here for Tucker real quick. I don't see Tucker joining in yet, but hopefully Tucker jumps in. So let me just preface today with the following thoughts. And it has to do with this idea of, and hopefully I don't hit you too high here on too high of a level, but this narrative that surrounds us and how I believe the media is beginning to somewhat take advantage of some of our behavior and our thoughts, okay? Years ago, I was introduced to a guy by the name Dave Broom, right? Dave Broom was the executive producer of the show called The Biggest Loser. He had approached my partner and I at the time and said, hey, we want to do a TV show. And I remember meeting with him, and he would talk about storytelling. He would talk about neuro-linguistic programming, and he would talk about the way in which storytelling begins to alter the mind and begins to alter our behavior, right? And I'm thinking to myself, this is weird. Like, I've never really engaged in this. Like, I'm a real estate guy through and through, buy and sell and rehab and relationships and all this kind of stuff. So he kind of put me into this world of this storytelling and NLP and ideas of open looping and stuff like that I hadn't grasped before, right? I want you to think about this because we've all been affected by it, whether we know it or not. I want you to come back to the last time you watched a Netflix episode or an Amazon Prime series and you were done with that episode, and you're like, holy cow, I can't turn this off. Like I got to go to the next one. And then when that one ends, you hit the next one, right? Like, you guys know what I'm talking about? Last night, I mean, as little as it might be, like my kids, they're watching High School Musical, the musical on Disney Plus. And we finished an episode and everyone's like, we got to do 2. And then we got to do 3. Go back to like 24. Like 24 was like the ideal open loop type deal where you're sitting there and you're like, I got to watch the next one. How many of you guys have binge watched something like that before? Like you've seen a show and you're like, dude, I can't turn this thing off, right? And by the way, this all started like in soap opera storytelling. Like you go back to soap opera storytelling, like you're sitting right here in the middle. This is like me. And then over here, you got this couple over here that's doing their thing. And she's sitting there and you don't know what's going to happen there. And they leave this open loop and you don't know what's happening there. And then they come over here and you got this other couple and this is happening here. And they leave you on a cliffhanger here and you don't know what's happening here. And then you're over here with this other couple here. And then there's Mr. Handsome over here. And you're sitting in the middle of all of these stories that are hitting you. And then right when it gets good, they hit something and you got this question mark. And you don't know whether Joe and Tom are going to get together or Susie and whatever are. And you don't know how this hunk over here is going to play into this. Well, guys, whether you recognize it or not, like this is what's happening in this world of media. Like you woke up first thing this morning and you're like, what's going on now? We got to follow up on this. Oh, we'll tune up later. Oh, what's the latest? And all of a sudden, you look at our level of productivity in this business, and we have all of this noise that's basically taken. If we look at this, we look at our level of productivity that's come here, and we've just kind of started to taper off because we've got all of this narrative that we're trying to figure out. We've got all this soap opera open loop that all of a sudden's like, I don't know what's real, what's not real, who I should listen to, what the market's doing, what it's not doing. And I'm telling you, if there's anybody that's gaining throughout this entire thing, it's the media and how they've come in and manipulated how we're starting to think and how we're starting to operate. Now, when I say this, I don't want anybody to think that I'm mitigating what's going on because it's all very, very serious, right? But it's like the other day, I got a guy that tells me, man, I'm really concerned about the stock market and what's going on in the stock market. He's like crushed by this. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, like I see it, like there's been some difficulty in the stock market. It says, how much money do you actually have in the stock market? 0. So I'm thinking to myself, why are you depressed for the next 2 days? Or why have you been depressed for the last 2 or 3 days as the stock market's taken a hit? When in reality, you have $0 invested in the stock market. And so we start to get wrapped up in some of these narratives that, yes, I know it's serious. Yes, I know it's important, but we got to look at our personal productivity and say what actually matters and how do we move forward. So that's just my little warning, if you will. And, you know, if I was you, I would limit probably my social media time. I would limit probably the amount of time that I'm looking at national news. I would limit the time that anything that I'm going to start listening to some of this narrative that's going to take me away from what's truly important. So tune in once a day, like at the end. Trust me, media and the important information is going to get to you. Everyone's tied in because they're like, oh, I don't want to miss out on whatever it is. And now our productivity, our level of, effectiveness within our businesses, we get distracted. So that's one thing that I would be doing. I would be limiting the information and the voices and everything that starts to come in and detract from what's happening. Now, people are asking me, Mike, are we going to see a market correction? How significant is that market correction going to be? And I got to tell you, anybody that's out there that says they know exactly how this is going to play out, I think they're just too big on ego, a little bit arrogant, and just don't know. I got to tell you, I don't know, exactly what the effects are going to be. I do feel like the next 7 to 10 days are fairly significant. And the reason why I say that is because I think everyone is kind of, I was talking to my transaction coordinator yesterday, Taryn, and I think she described it well. It's like everyone's taking this breath and everyone's like scared to exhale, right? Everyone's kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to exhale like fear and anxiety and craze and let's unload everything, or if it's like, I'm okay and I'm going to like exhale this like peace and calm. I like the way that she said that. And I think that's true. I think the next 7 to 10 days are going to be interesting just because of herd mentality and what we do. And I hopefully that we're not engaging and we're not a part of, that panic and that craze and that anxiety that's basically, driving all this. Cause again, like I look at people I work with and I'm like, we're resilient. We are problem solving. We're visionary. All of this other stuff can just kind of go by the wayside because that's who we are as a people. So hopefully we can find hope, in that and not participate in it. So having said that, I do think, I think we need to be careful of the narrative and what we decide to engage in. I think we need to understand that sometimes these stories are being manipulated. It's decreasing our productivity. And then the next thing is I do think it's important over the next 7 to 10 days to be really aware of what's going on in this marketplace and maybe being a little bit more aggressive in our current holdings than maybe we have been in the past. So let's jump into a couple of nuts and bolts. I want to talk about existing inventory that you may have. I also want to talk about future inventory that may be coming down the pipeline. First of all, I'm huge into mitigating risk, making sure that the deals that we're involved in are the right risk. So again, if I was thinking, hey, I'm just starting up my flipping business, I'm looking for opportunities to, once again, I'm in like-kind homogeneous neighborhoods. That's where I like to do deals. That means I don't like to do anything weird. If something's a little bit weird, a little bit off, I'm going to pull back from that. And when I say stuff like that, things like functional obsolescence, where I'm having to walk through one room to get to another, or this house, these split levels sometimes have like a flat roof line coming down, or again, I'm next to a corner, or I'm back in a 7-Eleven, any busy streets, anything like that, I'm just stepping back from. I'm going to be just a little bit more particular in the assets that I'm bringing on, right? So you've heard me preach this over and over again. I know guys like Brett and guys like Chase and guys like Larry, and these guys are like, Mike, I don't know how many times you can say it, but this is why, right? This is why all along I've been telling some of my one-on-one mentor students, I'm like, you guys, like, we have to stay disciplined, and even more so now as it relates to like-kind, homogeneous, nothing weird, medium price point. You guys have seen me draw this. I mean, take this out. You guys have seen me draw this right here, and you've seen me go like this, and you've seen me go right in here in terms of where my medium price point is. Like, that's the type of assets I'm really going to be buying. Once again, I'm over it here. And by the way, there are some marketing strategies and things that I'm going to be doing here in the next 10 days to double down on some stuff, because whenever I find instability, I know that if I had a particular market piece that was performing for me right in here and I was targeting some of those thoughts and ideas, I'm going to come back and I'm going to double down on this little marketplace right now. And when I say double down, if I was spending X amount of dollars last month, I'm going to go X plus and just try to get myself a little bit more of an opportunity here. And here's what I mean by that is I think there's a lot of folks that maybe we've met with over the last 14 days, last month, and they've maybe passed on a potential offer. They've maybe passed on our opportunity to work together. And I believe that if I went back into those folks, and Brett Johnson and I were talking about one yesterday, Cindy, this is an individual we extended an offer to. She passed on it or wasn't super excited, wanted more time. I would be going back into some of these lists right now, or going back to your team and saying, hey, who have we been in contact with over the last 60, 90, 120 days or more, and can we come back and re-engage that conversation with them? That's what I would be doing. Look, these are the offers we put in. These are the offers we did not get. There's opportunity there because of that uncertainty. So items to be reducing risk, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm going to reduce risk by the type of assets that I'm bringing in. You've also heard me say on this flip side, I want to be 90 to 120 days. And I'm telling you, if there's anything outside of that, I would just look for opportunity and speed. Now, I know some of you guys got some other really great, phenomenal development type deals and other stuff going on. And we're just going to have to play those out and be super strong and super disciplined within those. Here's the good news on all that is that demand is still very, very strong. And I believe that it will continue to be strong as we have liquidity in the credit markets. That is coming, that's what I learned back years ago in 07, 08, 09. What happened was as credit markets tightened, demand went away because we just didn't have access to cash. So that's the number one factors that I want to look at as we talk about metrics and what matters. What do our credit markets look like? Or do we have liquidity? Are people getting the loans that they thought that they were going to be able to get? Because there's some guys out there I know, for example, that had a bunch of credit lines, for example, that were open, and those credit lines got closed. So I have some guys that are saying, hey, rather than keeping my money in, available balance in a credit line, I'm actually pulling that money out. I want that sitting in my bank account. Yeah, they're paying the interest on it when it may not be out there at work, but it's something to consider, right? Because especially unsecured credit lines definitely get pulled back when things get weird. Now, are we to that point? No, I don't think we're to that point right now, but I want to be, thinking into the future potentially if this thing gets a little crazier as to what's going to happen with these credit markets and the liquidity. The other thing that I really want to talk about, rather than listening to this national narrative as to what's going on, I really want to get very, very granular and have everybody get as granular as they can possibly be in their individual markets. And you've heard me over and over talk about when I'm comping a property, I'm looking at these three buckets: active, under contracts, and then sold. And we recognize that properties go from this active status into here, and then they move into this sold status over a period of time. I really want to drill down and understand what's happening here in this active world, what's happening in this under contract world, and in this sold world. What do those numbers look like? Are we seeing this number increase? Or are we seeing it decrease? And what I would do, if there were specific markets I was into, I would go 84103, which is an area that I know really well. It's kind of the downtown Salt Lake market. And I would start to watch this, and I would track these numbers, actives, under contracts, and sold, and see how this flow from bucket to bucket to bucket is working. Are these numbers going up? Are they going down? Are we seeing a lot more properties coming here? And what's happening over here? Are we seeing a good flow from bucket to bucket to bucket? Now, people are like, hey, well, I like to track days on market. That's great. Let's track days on market. Let's track, metrics that basically say from time to how quick is the inventory moving. I like these metrics, but you realize that some of these metrics are 30 to 45 days old. Like, before I get data that goes, hey, I'm going from here to here to here, I want to be watching this here and this here sooner before we get through an entire escrow period of 30 to 45 days, because that's going to start to tell me what's really happening before there's a problem. The last thing I want to do is be able to get 60 to 90 days down the road and see this days on market start to increase, see the entire time to days till close start to increase. You know what I'm saying? I want to stay in front of this right here on this active, under contract, sold stuff. So I would be getting up and I would just be tracking some of those little pockets, get very, very nichey and granular in those pockets. You could basically say, today in 84103, there are 13 properties that are currently active, there are 10 under contract, and in the last 90 days or 60 days, I've seen, I don't know what it is, maybe it's 15 solds. And then tomorrow or within a couple days, I'd come back to that search and I'd say, look, is that number now 19? And is this what will happen as things start to soften? If they do, or maybe they stay healthy, if they do, what we'll see is we won't see nearly as many. We'll see this creep up, and then we'll see this under contract right here. That right there will start to decrease. We'll see this in the 5 range, you know, and then we'll see the solds that will start to slow down as well. So we'll see this here in the 7, you know. So what we want, that's what happens when these markets soften and go from, you know, the market that we're in where it's healthy to a little bit more softer market where we see higher levels of inventory. But I would personally get very, very granular as it relates to all this right here. People say, hey, Mike, like, how come you didn't get killed when the market turned? Well, we didn't get killed. And again, I'm not saying it's gonna turn. I'm not saying we're there. I'm not any of that. I just want to be forthcoming and say, if we start to see things get a little bit weird, and I don't see this as being like a 9/11 thing where it was just one single incident. I see this maybe taking a little bit more time to potentially flush through because it's affecting lives a little bit differently, right? So I don't know all that, but what I want to say is we need to be on top of this. We didn't get hurt when the turn happened because we were, again, like-kind assets, medium price point. We kept really, really good, strong inventory, and you can feel this slide. You can feel this softening as you track these numbers. So again, I would find your target zones, zero in on them, and then just stay cognizant in watching kind of what's going on. So those are some of the metrics that I would start to consider. I know it's like simple, but I'm telling you, I would go back to them and just making sure that we're solid there. The next question that I wanted to address is, again, who I should be listening to and who I should not be listening to. I think we've already identified the fact that when anybody brushes a huge broad stroke across any sort of market, that it's suspect, right? We need to just question it a little bit. I get a lot of people saying, hey, Mike, is now a good time to buy? And I say, if it's the right deal, it's a good time to buy, right? I don't want to just push this off and say, yeah, it's a good time or not a good time. Well, guess what? It might be a really good time to buy, but you simply overpaid for that particular asset, and now it's no longer a good time to buy. So who should I be listening to? Here are the people that I would be reaching out to right now. If I haven't already done this, I would want to be doing it after this phone call. I would be on the phone with particular lenders that I've worked with, and I would ask them the question, how many new files have you seen come in over the last 7 days, right? How many files have you seen potentially cancel? If they did cancel, why did they cancel, right? So I want to have an idea for that volume and what his underwriters are basically doing at this point. Are they seeing some guidelines change a little bit? Are files falling through? I want to be on the phone with those lenders. The other thing that I want to do and realize what I'm basically, we understand here's a transaction sits right here in the middle, and there's all these little players around this transaction that make that transaction work. So who are the other folks that are involved in this entire piece of making these transactions go to close? So again, one of them is going to be a lender, right? They're going to sit right there, one of those key people in that. The other person I want to go and I want to get a feel for are these title companies. Who are these title companies working with? They're working with, and what do they know? Because these title companies are working directly with these lenders. What's falling through? What's not falling through? I want to be surrounded with those folks. I'm calling them and saying, what files are happening? What files aren't happening? What files, that they have a really, really great granular feel on what's going on. So lenders, I'm talking to. If you haven't talked to them, get on the phone. What are you seeing? Our files being closed? Our files coming in? Title companies, they hopefully have another perspective on that as well. And then I mentioned earlier, my transaction coordinator. My transaction coordinator, I could call individual agents up like, hey, what are you seeing? Hey, what are you seeing? Hey, what are you seeing? but I'd rather go to these central hubs, right? Call a couple of transaction coordinators and say, hey, you're coordinating transactions for 20 agents and you have 100 files right now. What are you seeing happening on those files? And I would follow up. Call them up. Hey, what are you seeing on these files? Haven't seen any cancellations yet. Sounds good. I'll touch base in a couple of days and get a feel for that. Now, the next group of people that I would want to be reaching out to are my hard money lenders and seeing what changes or tweaks they're making as well. Because as they get a little bit, I would imagine a lot of these hard money lenders also have money potentially in the stock market. They may not be waking up every day and just loving life right now. I don't know. Maybe they see opportunity, but I would be calling these guys and saying, do we have liquidity as it relates to these, to liquidity, and do we have the ability to go, are we going to put money out there? Because I don't know what they're doing. So these are the people. So in review, as I've thought about this, number one, I wanted to let you know that I believe that there's a crazy narrative. I don't want to get wrapped up in it. I think that they're using forms of communication that tend to manipulate the mind and get us in places we shouldn't be. That's reducing our productivity. And I don't want to engage in that. I also don't want to say, hey, this isn't a big deal, but I want to say, yes, we need to take it seriously. We need to, do what we can with our families, protect them. But there's some of this question and instability. I want to say I don't have a crystal ball, but I think we need to let this play out over the next 7 to 10 days. And I would be very, very hypersensitive as it relates to some of these metrics. And I would be absolutely 100% in touch with these little hubs, right? With a lender hub, with a transaction coordinator hub, with a title company hub, and just know what files. Now, I want to say this. I have made these calls, and I'm not seeing contracts fall through. I'm not seeing people, going crazy in my particular market right now. I feel like the Salt Lake market is a very, very strong, healthy market. Someone was saying we have 5,500 homes that that need to be provided for buyers. Like, we have a huge shortage right now. So every market's a little bit different, is going to behave just a little bit differently. But everyone I'm talking to right now, lenders are saying files are moving forward. They're closing very, very strong. Not a problem at all. Agents that have been putting new property on the market over the last 7 to 10 days, they've seen multiple offers still on those properties. So we know we have buyers out there that are transacting. I personally am going to have a property go on the market here later on this afternoon. So I'm interested to see what happens over this weekend in terms of level activity as well on that. But I want to go back and I want to touch base with those hubs. We haven't seen a ton of negative feedback right now. But I also want to say this. I have been in conversation with some landlords, and the landlords have been contacted by their tenants, and the tenants are saying, hey, I've been laid off, or my hours have been cut back, and I need a little bit of flexibility as it relates to rent next month. That's just kind of where we're at. So some of this stuff is going to trickle out over the next 30, 60, 90 days as it relates to, individuals' incomes are being affected by that. So these are all things I think we just need to be aware of, that we need to be be in contact with. I'll end with this, is that, again, whenever there's a little bit of uncertainty and instability, there's opportunity for those that are willing to move. If you guys want to talk more about that, I'm happy to talk a little bit more about things that I'm going to do right now and money that I'm going to spend and put into the market to help generate just a few more of these leads, and to go back and retarget some of these existing people that I've worked with that have potentially passed. So those are some of my thoughts right now. I want to stay super positive. I think that we have a lot of opportunity ahead of us. But I also just want to be cognizant of the situation, not belittle it, but operate within it, and mitigate some of the risk that may potentially be, coming forward. But so far, I would say we're doing all right. The other thing, I mean, there's other simple principles that I've thought about, obviously, like cash is king. If I had some excess discretionary funds right now, I'm probably not going out and buying a boat today. I think just a calm mind, prudent reasoning, long-term holds, I think are going to be fine as we kind of ride this thing out. So those are some of my initial thoughts. Let's not panic, but let's be a part of the problem. I'm sorry, let's be a part of the solution, not the problem, and focus really on what we can control. A lot of people focus on what they can't control, and let's focus on what's in front of us as well. So the other thing I'll just say is I would take a minute and just pause and say, what are some of the what are some of the other, what I refer to as like tender mercies, if you will? What are the small little blessings that have come out of this? My kids, sorry guys, like my kids are home, right? And just to have them home is great. And my wife sent me a picture of the kids out in the tramp yesterday doing their homework together, right? So I'm like, that's that small, little thing that's like, oh, wow, you know what I mean? Like, rather than running the kids off to soccer or basketball or gymnastics or whatever, like the kids were playing a board game, I'm like, when's the last time we played a board game? So there's all these little, I think, behind the scenes opportunities that we can just kind of check the balance, you know what I mean? And again, this is happening on a financial side, it's happening on a personal side. So it's an opportunity for us, I think, to sit back and reflect on that. So take time to just understand and recognize some of those, those small moments as well. So having said that, I'd love to take time to open it up to everybody in terms of other perspectives. I certainly don't have all the answers, but I would be interested in hearing some of your opinions and some of your thoughts as to, what you've observed and what you've seen out there. And to try to keep everybody in check too. So additional comments are welcome. Additional questions are welcome. We'll have Tucker just kind of unmute. If you're in a loud place, you can mute yourself back, but we'll just unmute all the lines. And love to get additional commentary from anybody that's on board right now to provide perspective. We'll just open that up for the next little bit. So, and you can also just put it in the chat as well if you have some questions. You don't want to come on live and speak, but definitely love to hear some of your thoughts and concerns and some of your observations.
I'll start off. So I have a decent amount of inventory. I've spoken with.
Hey, can you just speak, Casey? Just speak up a little bit more. We can hear you, but we can. It's kind of rough to hear a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So I've done a lot of the things. I haven't reached out to the transaction coordinator. That's a good idea. What I've noticed is lenders operate different, so they lend different. So my guys that are playing with margins and stuff like that, obviously they've tightened up a little bit as their money's tightened up. The guys that are a little older and they're playing with shop money, or maybe they just have some wealth in their family or whatever the deal is, they don't seem to be loosening or tightening up. If there's any shortage, it's just because the market is so good. And so our inventories are high. Like I was talking with John, his inventory is high. My inventory, we got a decent amount of inventory. As far as my market is the same way as Salt Lake. The inventory is just like, there's nothing. Something goes live and it's getting scooped up. So I have a couple of buddies that have listed properties while we were in Mexico that I had sold them off of wholesale deals, and one of them got 12 offers same day, first day, and the other one went first day pending too, and it had multiple offers. And so that's kind of the theme. I don't think the real estate market is really slowing down, especially in those little wheelhouse prices, 350 and under, 4 under, whatever. I'm not noticing a difference in it anyway, from what I'm seeing. But we list one tomorrow too, so we'll see. We'll put it to the test. And
Yeah, that's why I really think that we've all kind of held our breath. And I think this next 7, 10, 14-day period will just be a pretty good little litmus test, especially for a guy like you, Casey, that's got a lot of inventory, and you'll be able to just kind of you'll have that gut feel on moving forward. So cool. Thanks, Casey. Polar says, I just had one buyer back out from purchasing a home. Love the home, was afraid of the economy. I think you're going to have some of those folks on the buy side, when they're coming in to purchase third party. I also think on sellers are thinking, hey, I had opportunity to potentially cash in on some equity, and again, would be more willing to accept your offer too. So there's going to be a few of those. Again, like, right now, they're well qualified. They're going to perform. They potentially had an interest rate lock that happened 2 to 3 weeks ago when interest rates were at an all-time low. I think that's going to keep a lot of people purchasing here for the next couple of weeks, but then we'll kind of see how that continues to play out. But yeah, we're going to have a few of those for sure as well. Have an offer that came in and the buyer is sticking with it. Fingers crossed. Cool. We've got another property that's closing here with Trevor Meekum, tribe member on Monday, Tuesday. That seems to be super solid. He's actually a surgeon relocating from back east to Salt Lake. So I don't think that one's going anywhere. But again, I think now's time to think about that. A few realtors saying people are waiting to sell. So that's possibility. If you have the ability, Adrian, for these sellers to basically say, hey, I want some of this instability to pass through and wait, they could do that too. I don't know. With interest rates as low as they are, I would be telling people, let's put it on the market now and see where it's at. The inventory still is so low. I would want to take advantage of a low inventory environment. But so cool. Other thoughts, questions, people chiming in?
Yeah, I've got something, Mike. Just kind of curious what you're seeing, at least on your side, with the private lending part. Me and Greg just closed a deal like a week and a half ago, little 8-unit downtown. And I mean, the way we set it up, this isn't really affecting us in the sense that we've got 6 months of interest reserves just sitting there. So it's not as big of a deal. Plus we have rents coming in because some of those leases are Utah Housing Authority. But with that being said, I mean, obviously our plan is to rehab that property. And we're not going to be doing anything with evictions for quite a while, obviously. So with that being said, I mean, how do you do you just take things as they go, kind of like, what's your opinion on that when you're doing a little bit larger scale of a remodel that's going to take you somewhere around 6 months to complete?
Well, I mean, you got a multi-unit there, so you have some cash flow coming in. So I would have to look at the deal a little bit more, and maybe I'm sure you already have a very conservative, measured approach as it's going from unit. Because are you going to go in and basically do 1 unit at a time kind of a thing, or 3 units at a time, 5 units at a time?
Exactly. And we have 2 vacancies right now. So it's like we do have, there is work we can do on the property, but obviously kind of a question mark with how we're going to be able to proceed over the next couple months and everything. Like I said, I'm not as worried about it. I guess I'm more it's a question regarding the private capital portion, because me and Greg are sitting there talking like, man, it's a really good thing we closed this when we did, because if it was this week or last week, we'd be having a different conversation right now, I think. I don't know. Just kind of wanted your thoughts on what you're seeing on that side as well.
So it's almost a little bit too early for me to say much, other than I've spoken with 3 of the lenders that I've worked that I do deals with, and right now they feel like this narrative is going to kind of just go away sooner than later. One lender said to me yesterday is, if we can come up with a sexier narrative beyond coronavirus that everyone can start to follow, it's almost going to solve the coronavirus. Like coronavirus will somehow go away, but you're going to have other, like, coming back to what Casey, you're going to have some guys that are pulling back, some guys that are really comfortable with it. Ultimately, I think you're still going to find really good lenders. You're going to have really good rates with the right type of asset. Like when I was talking on the single family side, we've already identified that. Like kind,
right.
homogeneous, medium price point, 90, 120-day term, these bread and butter type deals that we've been talking about for a long time. On your side, because you have the cash flow on that unit, I think that's the hedge, right? So
Right.
I would get in there, and I would get in there and find cash flow and make sure that every single one of those units is rented as soon as possible. If I had 2 vacant units, I'd be over there today with the guys. Why waste any time to get over there and get that rolling, and just maybe if you were saying, hey, we are going to do 5 at a time, maybe you back that off into 3, you know what I mean? So you maintain a little bit more cash flow through the project and maybe just dial that back just a little bit. But man, if I was going to be in a larger type project right now, it would be that type of project that had good rents and good cash flow happening. So it seems like it's the deal itself is its natural hedge against risk.
Right.
So
okay.
I'd say props to you for. I think that's. Hey, congrats on getting that deal, bro. I know you've been hitting that market for a while. I'm stoked for you.
Much appreciated. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate all your help.
Good job. You're the man. Okay. Any other thoughts? In California, the associate even added a coronavirus addendum. I have not heard about that. I'd be interested in knowing what that means, and leave it to the state of California to come up with another piece of legal jargon for coronavirus addendum. Maybe it's another clause or an out or something. I'm interested in knowing a little bit about that. But any other thoughts or people that want to jump in and express anything that would be significant and help us all be better and stronger as a group and moving forward and doing good business? Mark says, I missed the first part of the video. Can you recap why or how approaching people who have passed on selling? My thought there again was, 6 months, 4 months ago, 90 days ago, a month ago, it was like, hey, I'm not that interested in selling just because of instability right now. They might be thinking, hey, I'd love to take that equity cash out right now that I didn't take advantage of before. So Mark, the idea would be going back into my list, going back into the connections, the door knocks, the deal machine, the prop stream contacts. I would be, if I had a team of people that were making phone calls, I would go back to those texts, those SMSs. I'd go back to that entire team and say, who have we hit? Who have we gotten close to but couldn't quite close for one reason or another? And go back and say, hey, we had that conversation a month ago. I know it didn't work out for us, but due to the uncertainty right now, I just want to let you know I still have cash on the sideline and I'd love to find a way to get you paid and taken care of. So I'd go back into those markets. That's what I'm saying is that uncertainty may have opportunity. The coronavirus addendum in California, interesting. It says basically allows people to back out or postpone closing to see how things pan out a little. It's like a pause or restart, even if some contingencies have been removed. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how that's totally new to me, but another contingency, I guess, to be able to back out. Sterling, it's time to educate our clients. Simply, it may be unstable, but we have low inventory. We've discussed that. That's super key. I want to watch these metrics right here to make sure that the inventory levels stay where they are. New active listings are going to give us a really good litmus test for what's going on there. We'll have a pulse for it. Where will we be in 6 months? We don't know. We do know what we have right now, and as of now, things are still moving forward. I would agree 100%. Let's just stay on top of it. In Boston market, Andrea says a lot of inspections are shut down when we close on a new project. Should we start work and ask for forgiveness? Really good question. So look, sounds like Andrea is trying to move forward with some projects, but she can't. Andrea, I don't know how to answer that question for you. I know here in our local market, you can't go in and visit with an inspector or a city planner, and you're required to do it online. So it's funny, I've got I've got a project sitting right here, and I've got one stamp from the city, but I need like 3 more on it before I'm supposed to move forward. I think that's just measuring your risk, and asking for forgiveness later. So I don't know the answer to that, because I don't know how strict your inspectors are. But if there were ever a time potentially to do something like that, now would probably be a good time. I'm getting a little more aggressive on mine, if that makes any sense. Like, I have not passed a framing inspection yet, but my HVAC guy is pretty much done. So I don't know. I would manage that risk and look at that project a little bit better and see if they came back, what are they going to make you tear out? What are some of the negatives that way? Heston says he'd love to hear John's opinion. I'm assuming he's referring to John Maxim. John, if you're on the line and you want to jump in, we'd love to get your thoughts. I know you've got some Airbnbs that have been canceling. But John's got a lot of inventory right now, so you have a good idea.
Hey, there's the mask.
Dude, I've started to train for 2021 already.
Good. You need all the help you can get.
I really do. What are your thoughts, John, the last couple of days? What are you seeing once we've been back from our trip?
Overall, I feel like things are good. I missed a part of the call. My mom called me, so hopefully I don't cover something you already did. But I am seeing, I keep hearing people say there's still multiple offers. There's still tons of buyers out there. But I think everyone's talking about last Friday and Saturday, and that's kind of when this started. And last Saturday, we had great open houses. Lots of people showed up. I saw a couple offers. But then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday happened, and people are a little freaked out, and jobs are getting a little weird. I've had 3 contracts cancel, but I also have 3 under contract that are still going forward. So, the way I kind of look at this, and always have, and I've heard this from Matt Strong and you and other people. I mean, real estate luckily moves pretty slow, not like the stock market and some other things. And I do think this is kind of a temporary bump, but it's a real bump. And I think that, people losing their jobs, down at the bottom there, renters and stuff, I think we're going to be in for a couple months of slow moving stuff. But better than that, I think the opportunities during this time are going to be great. I mean, even me, I've heard some people talk about it. I've got contractors kind of slowing down. Like, we had an earthquake yesterday. Nobody showed up for work. Not one thing got done, right? And it's harder to get people together and move along, but this gives me an opportunity to do more of my processes and kind of fine tune some of those things that I maybe left by the wayside while I was working on all my properties and stuff like that. So I really feel like we might see a slow couple of months, but then the end of this year, I feel like is going to be really, really strong. And I don't see anything that makes me like throw up panic flares or anything like that.
I'd really like to see what a panic flare out of you looks like, though, John. I haven't seen one yet.
I'm high stress right now. This is maxed out.
I agree with everything you said here. But again, coming back to what I was saying earlier, I really think this next 7, 10, 14-day period is going to be somewhat a little more crucial. John's like, hey, over the weekend we were strong. I think it's just starting to settle in just a little bit more. So I'm with you. I'm interested to see what some of these new active listings do that are coming online here in the next little bit. But I think buyers are settling down just a little bit as well. So thanks, John. Hopefully that's helpful, Heston. I put another link in there. I know Matt is in the tribe. Matt Strong's in the tribe, and he's, like I said, he's a local lender here in Salt Lake. Does a lot of deals. Very connected. There's a link in there to another Zoom meeting that he's going to have coming up here. And if you guys want to check that out, it's March 20th, which is tomorrow at noon. It's kind of a lunch chat. So I think you'll have some perspectives there, and bring in some folks that'll have some perspective there too. So I just want to put a shout out to him, and he's a phenomenal contact that way. Any other thoughts coming through here that we need to it's almost like we need to have another conversation 1 week from today and follow up on some of the things that we've talked about, see what our key sources and, like I says, these hubs, are starting to tell us, and what we've observed. This is all about being proactive, right? And have an understanding for what's going on. So John's like, I still want to hear about those new opportunities you're excited about. Like, I've done, some mailers in the past, John. I think I'm going to do another fairly large mail drop right now. I'm also, I'm fairly involved in Deal Machine in terms of driving for dollars rather than, and I've kind of used that here or there. I'm going to bring on multiple drivers right now and have those drivers just hit more doors. Like, I need to have more exposure. So there's a way in Deal Machine. And by the way, let me just go into, if you guys, we had David Letgo a couple of weeks ago do a training on this. And I really, really feel like this is a phenomenal tool to use. And we've got some folks that have been using it. Some people are finding results, other people not as much. I always come back and say, hey, there's a link right there in Deal Machine. By the way, if you hit that link, you'll get 35 what they call Deal Machine credits, which is essentially 35 free pieces of mail. So there's 35 free pieces of mail right there. If you hit that link and you do it, it's like $50 a month to be able to use this app. But I've used the app, John, in the past where I've been out and about. I find vacant, abandoned, rundown properties. Right there, you're sitting in front of the house, and boom, I know exactly, is it owner-occupied? Is it absentee owner? I get their phone number. I can get their email. I can drop a piece of mail right there in front, like you've seen us talk about it. But I think to take it to the next level is to do what there's some other folks in this market that are doing it too, is to get a team of drivers. And there's, and you got to invest in the Deal Machine app a little bit, but you can have 5, 10, 15 drivers underneath you and have them just go out and crank. And so I want to increase my voice. I want to increase my reach on this. And I'm going to have this app in my phone, and I'm going to start managing some of these guys. Here's where I think the opportunity is there's a lot of folks that are now no longer at work, right? They can't go to they can't be cooks. They can't be waiters. They can't, all of these things. They're sitting at home and like, what can I do? Well, they can get in their car and they can drive, and they can go fill up these apps and fill these leads in here. So I would say that's what I'm doing. Like, I'm going to hit a couple more mail drops. I'm going to double down on my Deal Machine, and I'm going to get 4 to 5 guys out there driving for them, because they're already sitting at home right now. What's wrong with them sitting in their car and driving around and identifying just a few more folks on this? So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to go enterprise on Deal Machine and create a really solid driving team right now. So I've got Deal Machine now. I've used it. It's great. I think it's a phenomenal tool. Like, I've been preaching it for a while, but I want to double down on that. Maxim just said I had 2 ridiculously lowball offers accepted yesterday. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think that the instability, and I want to be sensitive to it, right? But whenever there's uncertainty, instability, I think the entrepreneur comes out and says, how do I solve that problem? And really, that's the hat that we put on once again, is that problem solving hat. And if they have significant equity, maybe now's their time to cash out. We got to be sensitive to those situations. Obviously, I'm going to preach that high and low. But again, some of these deals we didn't close, we're going to be able to close them now. And some of these folks that weren't thinking of selling, they might be selling now. Like, oh man, I should have taken advantage, and I want to move out to the prairie, or I want to move to my cabin or whatever. I had multiple people kind of like that. So, and again, Maxim proved it yesterday with a couple folks accepting. So that's what I'm doing. I'm hitting a couple more mailers. I'm going to get some Deal Machine drivers out there, and we're going to drive, and we're going to increase our voice and increase our reach, because ultimately, how big of a net are we throwing out there? I think we're going to, if we had a 1% response rate on mail or, you know, or calls, I think our response rate doubles, if not triples potentially, with people just finally going, hey, maybe I did get a little greedy. I'm good now. So if you guys want to like talk more about that and you guys are interested in doing more deal machine stuff, I know we had David let go, but there's a guy behind the scenes. His name's Josh. I've had multiple meetings with Josh in the last 48 hours, and Josh has been breaking all that down for me in terms of, hey, how to run the ad, how to compensate these drivers. There's basically 3 ways to compensate them. He's shown me how to basically load them. There's specific videos in there that teach them exactly how to use the app as well. So it's kind of a, you create it and then you just start loading some people in there. So I'm gonna do more of that because I think it's a powerful tool. So you'll probably hear more about that, but if you guys are interested in connecting with Josh, you want to hit that link and you want to do a private session with me and Josh to do that, I'm happy to do that. Any other thoughts on this? Maybe we revisit this thing in a week, but guys, let's stay positive. Let's be the guys that aren't causing panic and grief. Let's be part of the solution. Let's be level-headed about it. You know, I'm always like, hey, this business is not about here and there and here. It's like we just stay constant and stay consistent in our gig. And again, open communication is going to be really, really key with everyone that we work with. So you guys are welcome to shoot me a text message. You're welcome to shoot me an email. You're welcome to jump in either the Premier or the community side. I'll be watching, you know, some of that. But let's see what we can do to try to be collective in our thoughts in all this. So, all right, guys, I think it's a good little session today. Thanks to everyone, and definitely let's talk soon. Appreciate it, guys. We'll talk soon. See you.